administration in particular doesn't want to spend presidential time fighting with slime balls, and you can tell that I disagree with that. But I do think that argument has some merit, that they've got to find some balance there and not having the president down there in the mud with people, but fighting back in some way as well, don't they?
I think that's right, but there's a distinction to be made. You know, there are these fabricated things that the Fox Newses and the Breitbarts of the world generate just about every week. They got attention with one this week because it was so outrageous, but it goes on just about every single week. They do need to recognize that while they might be rising above it, it is important to the American people that we, as an institution, as people who are progressives, Democrats, that there is some fight back going on. But it doesn't have to be just on these so-called frivolous things. It can be on substance, too. I think that the president did a disservice when he didn't stand up during the midst of this Gulf oil spill and made the case for comprehensive energy reform in specific terms and why it's important to the American people, why it's important to our national security, much more full-throatedly. And if it turned out the Republicans and maybe a handful of Democrats were going to drag the bill down, they should have had to do so with a fight. And I think that's where the line gets drawn.
Is there anybody powerful enough and loud enough outside of the White House to make those cases for them if, for whatever reason, the president and the White House aren't willing to do it themselves?
Well, besides me, you mean, Rachel? No, look, I think that there are some things that absolutely need the presidential leadership. And I got to tell you, we are going to have a moment coming into this election, and he's going to have his moment in 2012, where we are going to get a chance to look up at the scoreboard and remind people how much was done. And I think the American people are smart enough to realize that part of what we're doing in these elections is to giving credit for these things. And maybe we're losing the day-to-day war, but this has been a remarkably accomplished administration. And you listed all the ways, and I think this Congress is going to get more credit for it than I think the day-to-day pundits believe. But ultimately, the answer is no. The President of the United States has to go out and fight for some of these things. And it's not the worst thing in the world to go and fight for something that has national support and maybe lose in the United States Senate. I think there's only so long that senators are going to vote no against things that are ultimately popular nationally.
Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner of New York, thanks very much for your time tonight, sir. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
So there was a time not long ago when I thought the most compelling thing about covering the midterm elections this year was going to be the theme music which I love. Even when I know it's coming, I still get that little... Anyway, while I do love that theme song, turns out the midterms are turning out to be awesome to cover, not just because of the music. They're being awesome. They're turning out to be awesome to cover by a factor of Sharon Engel, of Tom Tancredo, and tonight, for the first time I'm aware of in American history, the midterms are becoming awesome to cover because of the threat of bacon police. Bacon police are coming for you, America. All of that, plus the theme music, coming right up. As of yesterday, I thought the campaign stuff this year among Republicans in Colorado in particular could not get more weird.
Why should you vote for me? Because I do not wear high heels.
Do not vote for the other Republican running for Colorado Senate, the woman. Vote for the man because of his man shoes. I thought that was as weird as election 2010 was going to get. I was wrong. I was wrong, even if you're just talking about Colorado Republicans. In the governor's race in Colorado, the man who put the shush in audacious, shush, Tom Tancredo, has not only thrown his hat in the ring for governor of Colorado, he has thrown his hat in the ring really, really hard in a way that is intended to hurt. Mr. Tancredo has issued an ultimatum/promise demanding that by Monday at the latest, both Republican candidates must agree to drop out of the governor's race. They must agree to drop out or else he, Tom Tancredo, is going to run as a third-party candidate on the American Constitution Party ticket. The what? Right, exactly. Now, here's the best part. Mr. Tancredo does not actually want the two Republican candidates to quit by Monday. He wants them on Monday to just promise to quit. What he actually wants is for both Republicans to promise to quit, but for them to stay in the race. until after the primary next month, and then he wants them to drop out. Or as Jason Linkins at the Huffington Post explained today, quote, the idea is that the two competitors will commit to not running before the primary, then they actually stage the primary, and then the winner will say, like I promised Tom Tancredo, I will now quit the race for some reason. It should also be noted that Mr. Tancredo published an op-ed today in the Washington Times calling for President Obama to be impeached. Impeached for what? It's not terribly clear, but there is an eye-catching pictorial accompaniment of the United States Constitution as a roll of toilet paper with the Obama campaign logo on the side. If the weird primary stunt and impeaching Obama and showing the Constitution as toilet paper is not exactly what you're looking for in a candidate this year, I have something in the same variety that you might like better from Tennessee. The governor's race there includes Republican Congressman Zach Wamp. He's the guy on the left there, famous for living in the C Street house, which is over there on the right. That's the subsidized mansion/dorm for members of Congress that is registered as a church for tax purposes. Congressman Wamp has been driven so round the bend by health reform that in his campaign for Tennessee governor, he is now calling for his home state of Tennessee to secede from the Union. Where have I heard this before? Quote, I hope that the American people will go to the ballot box in 2010 and 2012 so that states are not forced to consider separation from this government. You've been warned, American people. It's either vote for Zach Wamp or secession. Or maybe it's vote for Zach Wamp because you'll get secession. You can't actually really tell in terms of what he's promising. It's either vote Governor Wamp if you want civil war, or it's vote Governor Wamp if you don't want civil war. Unclear as of yet, but he wants you to know that the threat of Tennessee seceding from the Union, again, might yet happen. But Zach Wamp is not the only politician on the ballot this year to be driven to distraction by health reform. Take also, please, Congressman Louis Gohmert of Texas.
Think about it. The federal government has all of your personal medical records.
You know what, you guys, actually, Rob, can you hear me? I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I forgot that Louis Gohmert talks really slowly, and this is a Friday, and this is cable news, and we've all got really short attention spans. I brought, can we do the fast version of it? Can we do it?
Once the federal government, through tax dollars, is paying for people's health care, then it will proclaim the right to know what you're spending your money on. Because, for example, if you have too high of a cholesterol rate, you have too high of a body mass index, then it's quite conceivable at some point you get an email, you get a letter from your federal government saying, we noticed your cholesterol was 160, and we noticed that you bought bacon at the grocery store this weekend. Accordingly, since you were on a federal program, we are going to have to increase the amount that you pay to participate in the federal Obamacare program.
Just to be clear, what the congressman is saying there is because of health reform, there will be federal officials regulating your bacon intake. Bacon police. Flour delivery, ma'am. Land shark, ma'am. Bacon police, put your frying pan in the air where I can see it. I so unexpectedly am turning out to love this election season. Bacon police. This has been a very busy week for me, very busy. I did the usual 5 episodes of The Rachel Maddow Show. I went to the gym, I think, once, or maybe that was last week. There was that whole weird back and forth with me and Mr. O'Reilly over at Fox News. Now he's calling me a loon, which is cool because I sort of love loons. My mom's Canadian, and there's a loon on the Canadian dollar coin, of course. But also, since last Friday, we here at The Rachel Maddow Show have been trading campaign ads, which for me are fake, but for him are real, with a Republican Senate hopeful from the great state of Florida, a man named Marco Rubio. It started when we pointed out a giant awkwardness in Republican economics right now, which is their candidates crusading against the deficit while proposing making the deficit way bigger through tax cuts. Here's how Mr. Rubio responded to that. That was his whole argument. If Rachel Maddow thinks it's wrong, it must be right. Ta-da! Still, though, there remains the issue of why I brought up Marco Rubio in the first place. Marco Rubio calling himself a deficit hawk while proposing adding more than $3 trillion to the deficit. That is still the point. So we tried to get him to address the point instead of just me as a person with this. It was sort of our rebuttal.